welcome back. And we're moving into our first conversation for today, talking about road safety during the holiday season. We have with us at this time the Monitoring and Evaluation Officer for the Belize Road Safety Project, Sandra Miranda, and we have President of Belize Youth for Road Safety, Shantel Jacobs. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Now, ladies, you know, I think we were chatting during the break. I think it's sad when we hear these stories come out of accidents that happen, particularly around this season. And we always take the opportunity to educate people that hopefully one or two will be impacted, because no matter how much you educate, we still don't get through to all. But I want to say welcome. And let's just start off by talking about the Road Safety Project and how you try your best to spread the message around this time.
The Road Safety Project is for safer roads, to reduce accidents, serious injuries, deaths by road crashes.
That's right.
That's the basic objective of the Road Safety Project. So that includes the infrastructure. So the infrastructure is in such a way that it would reduce the incidences of crashes on the highway. And you have barriers, bars, you have the lines, you have the cat eyes that would also help the drivers to reduce the incidents and the fatalities.
That's right.
Right, and in Belize we have the demonstration corridor. That's between Belize City to Belmopan. That would also spread out to the other highways in the country, so that eventually Belize would have safer roads. And we hope that it will change the attitudes of the drivers. Right?
That has been such a heavy part of the emphasis coming out of the Road Safety Project. We've spoken to several representatives about the infrastructure development, the highway patrol, the ambulance, the golden hour. But ultimately, no matter how many provisions are made, wider roads, better roads, less slick roads, it's the users that will have to change their behaviors as well. Let's talk statistics in terms of what we say that we know we see more accidents around this time of year, but you have the statistics to prove it, right? So let's talk statistics.
Okay.
All right.
So far, for 2016, Belize have seen unconfirmed 72 fatalities due to road traffic crashes. Right?
Wow.
And I think if people would really know these statistics, maybe they would go slower on the highways. Now, while along the demonstration corridor, in the past, along that area used to be the highest in fatality. Since the project, that area have gone down drastically. I mean, in the statistics for 2016, there have only been 6 fatalities. Yes, we would want 0, but from where it used to be to 6. But what happened is that now fatalities are more on the Philip Golson Highway and along rural roads. And we noticed that you need to watch the Southern Highway, right? That it has been a slight, the incidences there were not great, but now there is a slight increase. So the numbers might be small, but from where it used to be. And we are looking at the age of 16 to 29. But quite surprisingly, while you might think that those are the highest incidences, it's the over 30 that is much higher. Right? It's the over 30 in fatalities. The causes of the crashes have not really been looked at seriously to tell you if it is more because of the influence of alcohol. Well, you figure speeding is a part, but you can't give you the percentage of speeding to alcohol use and to distracted driving. Because the distracted driving now is a new thing coming on with drivers texting and driving. They are talking on the phone and driving, and these distract the drivers.
Absolutely.
And also the use of seatbelts sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And yes, the seat belts, right?
There's so many factors to discuss there, but you know, it's key to it is that we don't have the data. I mean, like fundamentally, we don't have the main causes of the accidents.
Right.
We don't have the speed they were going. They could have been playing with a car radio or picking up something from the floor. We don't have that kind of information. But we do get, and especially in the media, when people go out to do their coverage on stories, they hear about whether they were leaving a bar, or leaving a party, or having drinks. So we know alcohol continues to be a main factor. In this time of year, where a lot of people will be visiting families and celebrating and having drinks, you want to reiterate that message that drinking and driving should really be something that no one attempts to do. But I have to tell you, one of the most common things you hear is, I drive better when I drink. I'll let you respond to that one.
Right.
Okay. Well, statistics had proven that when you're under the influence, or even one drink, because alcohol affects everybody differently. For example, I could take one beer that has 5% of alcohol, while you take 2% or 3% of a wine or something like that. It could affect your body differently than mine, because we have these tests, the breathalyzer or the blood test that these enforcement officers would test you if they suspect that you're drinking and driving. And if your blood alcohol concentration is above 0.08, then that's considered, well, not drunk, but you're intoxicated. And you shouldn't be driving if you're 0.08. Well, that's a required standard for Belize, but in other countries it's less or higher. And really, because alcohol is actually a nervous system depressant, so it numbs your brain, and that is why you have the different effects of alcohol. For example, you have poor coordination, you have your judgment isn't good, then you start seeing like you're blurry, like things gets blurry, and you feel more confident, right? I mean, everybody, even not only drinking, even when you're probably on the dance floor, you feel like, oh, even if you know the dance too good, you feel like you're the dance good, right? Yeah, so all of that, it lets you feel like you're on top of the world, and that is why people say, okay, and the more experienced you are when driving, even when you're drinking, that affects you, because you feel like, oh yes, because I'm experienced, I could drive. No, not really. It's just your mind, and it's the alcohol talking. But in reality, you can't drive better when you're drinking. So it's better to refrain from alcoholic beverages and to just stay sober. Or if you're going to a party or is some kind of event that involves alcohol, then our best advice is to stay sober, drink water or juice, or have a designated driver. You have a designated driver with you, and you will get home safely. I mean, you could have a next drunk driver while you're driving, but then it's up to you to be more cautious on the road.
That's right.
You have to be cautious.
Now, Shantel, you are a part of the youth arm of the Road Safety Project, and having to deliver this message to young people is, I would imagine, very difficult, because it's really, they're the ones going out and partying. We don't have a culture as much of having a designated driver. We don't have Uber, where it's easier to just get a ride. Taxis stop running after a certain hour if you haven't booked it in advance.
That's correct.
What do you tell other young people, and what are their responses to you when you go out with this message, specifically about the drinking and driving?
Oh my goodness. Actually, because we deal with a lot of young people, and we would go mainly in high schools, like educational institutions, and target youths between the ages of 15 to 29. And so most of them are at the age of consent, and so, well, even at a lower age, they start drinking. But most of the time when we would ask them, okay, so how many of you all drink in this class? And that is alcoholic beverages. They would be shy because a lecturer would be in the classroom at the time. And so we would say, no, we are not here to penalize you. So you could be honest. And they get comfortable, and they would raise their hands. And so it would be like majority of the class gets
They drink alcohol.
They drink alcohol. And so we would ask them, okay, when you go, like we would give them different scenarios and ask them, in the case that you're going to a party or at an event and alcohol is involved, what would you do? Would you drink or would you refrain from drinking? Most of them will, it's there, so we will drink it.
So you know the culture of drinking is
there. So when they say, okay, they will drink, okay, that's fine. Now, you already have alcohol within your system. So now what would you do? Would you drive home, catch a taxi, walk? How would you get home? And they, because I feel like they would tell us what we want to hear and say, oh, we will catch a taxi, or they would say, no, let's talk reality. What would you do? And then they would say, okay, we would drive. But then we would explain to them the consequences of driving while drinking. And then some of them are receptive to it and say, okay, we're not going to do it again. We'll try to practice to not drink and drive, or to have a designated driver. But then in reality, only time will tell if they are practicing what we are telling them.
Yeah. And I mean, there are many studies. I know you have PSAs that you run as well that show how drinking specifically affects your reaction time. And the reaction time, just within a couple seconds, can be the difference between a major collision and something else. So it's understandable that we know we shouldn't be drinking and driving, but we still continue. I want to touch on some other issues as well. So the number one is, of course, don't drink and drive.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the rest, right? The speeding.
With that speeding, the statistics show that along the demonstration corridor, the excessive speeding reduced a little.
Okay.
But you find that within the villages, when you pass on the highway, the speed limit there should be 25 miles an hour and 15 miles an hour for trucks. Well, the statistics show you that so far, no driver have obeyed that speed limit. So that means that when you pass through these areas where there are children, where there are pedestrians, drivers are still speeding. But when you use the 55 miles an hour and the 45, we have like between 70 to 80% rate of users obeying that. But that would be the time of the day that the survey was done.
Okay.
Right? Because we know that usually after 5, and so everybody rush home, and before 8. But the statistics is usually, the data is usually taken at different times.
Okay.
Right?
So you know in the villages where people are walking, riding, congregating along the roadside, that people are not slowing down.
They are not slowing down.
Yeah.
And they need to slow down because that's a risk area. Right? You might say, well, we are on the highway. You know, in other countries, the highway you go, but in other countries, the highways are different.
Yeah.
Right? Ours, no, because the highways also have residents. Right? And if we need to reduce the fatalities, speeding is also a great factor.
Okay.
And I would think that maybe the reporting of these fatalities could be reported in such a way that it sent home a message. Like you say, yesterday you reported that there were 3 fatalities in a range walk. You might need to say there are 3 fatalities. That brings to the total of 75 for 2016.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Right? And then it might need home, and you say Belize have a population of, say, 350,000. That would be an average of 22, 23 fatalities per 100,000. And I think if that reality hit, you might slow down and say, really?
Yeah.
But the figures are not published.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's a factor that could reduce, and you'd find most of these incidences are related to drunk driving and speeding.
That's right.
So far, very few have been linked to texting and using your phone.
And we know the implications of not using your seatbelt.
Right, and the seatbelts. Because with the seatbelt, now, the laws have front seat drivers, but the back seat drivers, the back seat riders, create a risk for you at the front to buckle down with your seatbelt.
Yeah.
Because you're a missile. And ordinarily, without even crashing, you make a sudden brakes,
Yep.
the person to the back,
Yeah.
with the other hear that scream,
Yeah.
right?
You know, and
Right, so-
I can credit that bit of knowledge to the Road Safety Project coming on and showing that demonstration quite a few times.
Right.
That even children in the back seat literally become like projectiles in a
Right.
car.
They need to be strapped.
If they're not
Strapped.
strapped in
Right.
and you have an accident. So a lot of people sit in the back seat and say, oh, I don't need it. But your body weight multiplied is what impacts the other people in the car.
Right. And remember, you will come from the back to the front.
Yeah.
Right?
And-
or you'll be thrown out the window.
Some excuses people would say is that, oh, seatbelts are restraining and uncomfortable, but in reality, isn't that what the seatbelt's supposed
So
to do?
restrain you.
Yeah.
Restrain you? And so, would you then want to be fling from out of vehicle or just have a few bruises? So we try to encourage road users to use their seatbelts, emphasize that to them, that it can save your life by, like what Sylvian said, 75%.
Yeah.
So I encourage all road users to use their seatbelt, whether in the front seat or
back seat.
at the back.
Okay. What are some of the other reminders we want to get out to people for this season?
Wear bright clothes.
Bright.
Be seen at night.
Ah, there we go. Users of the road.
Bright
Yes.
clothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't ride on the highway in full black on a bike.
No. You
You
shouldn't.
won't be seen.
Yes. For example, there, right there,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't be seen.
Yeah.
Right.
So even the bicycle should have had a
Light.
reflector,
Yeah.
reflector, or the guy riding the bike, reflective vest,
Yeah.
or
Right.
some kind of reflective gear. See, now that's correct.
So the bright clothes helps.
Yes.
And if you're not going to wear bright clothes, at least wear something reflective, or have
Reflective.
something
Right.
reflective on your
For
bike.
example, this morning we were traveling, and this was a guy was walking alongside the road and had a flashlight in his hand, and it was blinking, so we were able to see him.
Yeah.
So that's a way. If you don't have any bright clothes or reflective gears, use something else that has a reflector or could be used that
Yeah.
road users can see you. And then not only for pedestrians and cyclists, because you have some road users which is vehicles, and they forget to put on their headlights. And so that could be a danger too, because if you don't have on your headlights, then sometimes other vehicles can't see you, and they would.
Or even when you have one headlight
Right.
out. Yeah.
Yes, and that could be sometimes mistaken for a motorcycle. So it's encouraged to check your vehicles anytime you get out of your house and you want to go anywhere. Be sure to do a thorough check on the vehicle. Check your wheels, your headlights, underneath the hood. You check your oil, your water, and all of the those things underneath
Yeah.
the hood.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. And other than drunk driving, we're talking as well about distracted driving.
Distracted
Distracted
driving. That's correct. Distracted driving. There are different types of distraction. We have physical distraction, which include texting and driving, or playing with the radio, or picking up something, or even touching someone in the vehicle. All of those are physical distraction.
Yeah.
And then you have mental distraction, whereby, remember I said texting and driving. Now you're using a cell phone while driving.
Yes.
That's talking, or even watching somebody on the road, or watching a billboard, or what else, Miss Sanj?
Yeah.
Just
about
No,
anything
just about
that
anything
that
takes your
yes.
focus off the road.
Exactly.
Right. Sometimes it's talking, it's
Yeah.
the conversation within the vehicle. You might have other people in
Yeah.
the vehicle, and the conversation could also be distracting because you might want to participate.
So all of
I
those-
like your video where the guy is obviously talking to a girl while he drives, totally distracted from the road. I've seen that one happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't this
Yeah.
one?
It was in
Yes,
the video
right.
just now.
Yes.
Yeah. So and I think we've had these practices kind of ingrained, and we somehow feel like we've gotten away with them for so long that it's okay now. But what has changed is the number of persons using our roads, both vehicles, bicycles, and persons walking along the way, right?
Yes, that increased a lot. That has increased. But another risk factor along with pedestrians are the cyclists.
Yes.
We have motorcyclists, and a lot of these motorcyclists seem to think that the helmet is not good, or the helmet might just be too heavy for their heads. You'd see the cyclist driving and the helmet is on the handle of the bike. Then it's of no use there. The helmet is there to protect you from the head injuries.
For example, with this helmet right here, that's a bicycle helmet. And so in the case of a collision or an accident, he could have his head damaged because it's not properly covered. And so we ask that anybody using motorcycles, that they have
there are
proper
special helmets to use for the motorcycles.
Yes.
And the helmets are approved by the Department of Transport.
Okay.
That should be used, because it's not any helmet. There are some helmets, as soon as you drop, they crack.
Yes.
And you need the protection. It's very foamy and have enough sponge inside to protect the head.
And the difference, I would imagine, between using a bicycle helmet on a bicycle is that you have less speed. A motorcycle
it's slower, and then the impact of our fall, it's less. It would reduce. It's less. And another thing with the cyclists, it's the way that you see them going within traffic, in, out, and circling in traffic. They need to also obey the same traffic rules that go for a motor vehicle.
That's right.
As they are considered as a vehicle, so they can't be overtaken on the wrong side of the other side of the vehicle. They also need to maintain the distance, right? So and if you notice, the incidences with motorcycles are also increasing.
That's right.
Especially the motorcycle drivers, and it's usually fatal.
Yeah.
Right? And that should be observed also over this holiday, because they're on a cycle, they think they can drink and drive. But that also applies to the motorcyclists.
Yeah.
Right?
All right, so what else did we miss? I know you have some signage that you're also promoting. This one here talks about maintaining space while you're driving, right? So it gives you, I guess, a little bit of wiggle room in case you get distracted, or just a chance to react. That's what it is.
You need a reaction time, and besides the distance, if the vehicle in front of you makes a sudden stop, then you're in problem.
Yes.
Because you are so close behind that vehicle. This vehicle stops. By the time you touch your brakes, you're already in the rear of that vehicle.
That's right.
So you it's important to maintain a distance between the vehicles. And that's the reason I said the motorcyclists also need to maintain that distance. Because if that vehicle stops or suddenly reverse, it's straight into you.
Yeah.
Right? So.
And over there?
Over here, it's
don't drink and drive.
Right, and this needs to be followed, as this is very important, especially around this time, because they consume a whole lot of alcohol. And this is to remind you to click on your seatbelt.
Wear your seatbelt. We also keep on talking about putting children in car seats.
Yes. And the car seats, they go by age, because you need to have them in the appropriate car seat that they would think, because a child should not be in the front of the vehicle.
Should not be in the front, and worse, it should not be in a car seat.
Right, and if you're in a car seat, then you know that the car seat is also strapped, because the child would be so small for the usual seat belt.
Yeah.
So you need to have them there protected. This one is no texting.
No texting while driving.
And I experienced motorcyclists and bicycle riders also text.
People who walk too,
yeah. Well, and then when you walk, because even the pedestrians, we are road safety. It's not only for vehicle, but also for the pedestrian.
Yeah.
You'd find them texting and on the phone and not observing where they are going.
Yeah.
And then you hear screech. Then you look up.
Yeah.
You want to get vexed and look at the driver but you are at fault.
You are responsible as well.
Right, because you're also responsible for your own safety.
Yeah. And that was one of the things I had said earlier, and then I realized I need to correct myself, because ultimately when you talk road safety, it's not just about drivers. It's about every person who uses the road, and that includes whether you're jogging in the morning, walking between villages, riding a bicycle for exercise or as your transportation, or using a motorcycle. Everyone has to take a bit more consideration when using the roads, right?
Right, we all share the same road.
That's correct.
All right, so of course, in one last attempt to keep everyone safe over the Christmas season, let's just recap some of the important tips that we want to share. Right?
Right.
No drinking and driving. If you want to drink at an event, get a designated driver, or you just drink at home. You don't have any confusion there. You just drink at home, and after you drink, then you go to your bed. Watch your speed, right? If you are planning to going, for example, to Toledo or to Corozal or to anywhere that is more than 55 miles or 50 miles, try to be on time so you don't speed. Try to go an hour. Yes, try to go an hour before the time, so you have enough time to travel on the road. You could cruise, watch the beauty of Belize. We have so many beauty when we are traveling, and people don't realize that because they are traveling so fast and they want to reach their destination. And then of course, use your seat belt. Whenever you get in a vehicle, if you're just going to a shop, if you're just going 1 mile out of your city or your town, try to use your seat belt. If you use it every time, then you will become accustomed. It becomes that
natural practice. Yes.
So ensure that all your passengers put on your vehicle seat belts, and then wear bright clothes. I know sometimes you forget your cranberry, so you won't go to shop. At least have a flashlight if you don't have any bright clothing, right? And then don't get distracted. Try not to let your passengers distract you, your kids distract you while you're driving. Let them know that, okay, we're getting in this vehicle. If you want to tell me something, tell me now, or when we reach our destination. Or even if you want to answer a call or send a text, pull off the road.
Yeah.
And you could send your call, give your call, send your text, and then when you finish, you go back on the road. And maintain your space between vehicle. They say you usually keep at least 1 vehicle length between each vehicle, so that you have adequate space, just in case of something would happen, you have enough time to slow down. And of course, stay on the road. If you're sleepy, you just come, you had a late night at work, you try to revive up, drink some coffee, I don't know, something that will energize you, and then you go back on the road. And especially if you're overtaking, try to not overtake on blind spots. And some may not know that we do have line markings that indicates to you when you should
that's right,
when you should overtake.
Solid lines mean don't overtake.
Right, the broken lines.
Broken lines mean you can.
Right.
If you clear these.
If it's clear.
All right, and it talks, of course, of overtaking buses, because passengers may come off. Well, we hope that people have been listening, and that over the course of the Christmas season, that they will take these things into consideration and consider the safety, their own personal safety, the safety of their passengers, and the safety of other persons traversing the roads.
And the fatalities, it's a pain to the family. Right? So then you just think about your family. Because certain times, some of these fatalities and these crashes are avoidable.
All right. So thank you once again for stopping in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All
right. We're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we'll be joined by representatives of the BTB. So stay tuned.